So one of the most anticipated cars of the year is the Porsche Taycan. So it's Porsche's first ever all-electric car, and let's face it, it's the first car to really rival the Teslas. So we've got all three variants today. So we've got the entry level, the 4S behind me. This car we actually have for sale currently. On my left you have the mid-range, the Taycan Turbo. This is a car we actually sold a couple of days ago. And on my right you have the top of the range, the Daddy, the Turbo S. This car actually belongs to a very good customer of ours, a very prolific buyer, professional racing driver. We will leave his details in the description below. But today we're going to talk about all three cars, the differences between them. We're going to talk about some of the different options you can get, some of the different features, and hopefully help you find what is the most suitable Taycan for you. Okay, so before we start looking around the cars, I just wanted to touch on the names, because Porsche have gone with very familiar names, the Turbo, the Turbo S, the 4S. Obviously they don't want to alienate Porsche customers with brand new funky names. But what's obviously interesting, first of all, the obvious one, there's no engines in these cars. How can you have a turbocharger? Basically, Porsche now refer to Turbo as just fast, Turbo S as faster. What's more interesting is the use of 4S. Certainly where the 911 is concerned, the Carrera 4S and the Turbo S 911s are very different cars. They certainly look very different from the rear. Even on the Panamera, the 4S and the Turbo have totally different engines, different gearboxes. But where the Taycan is concerned, they're all actually fairly similar. They certainly have the same powertrains, which is motors on the front axle, motors on the rear axle. They have the same transmission, which is single speed on the front, dual speed on the rear, and they look actually pretty similar. So the point of this video is really to look at what is really different about these three cars. So let's get started. Okay, let's start off by looking at the exterior design of the Taycan. You'll notice all three cars look fairly similar, but there are some subtle differences which I'm going to show you. But first, can I just say how good looking I think the Taycan is. I think it just feels fresh and modern. I think Porsche have really done a good job on the design. So look, we'll start off on the 4S. I mean, all the Taycans have got this sort of similar aggressive bonnet, and then they've all got these aerodynamic sort of fins for airflow. Where it's different is down here. So on the 4S you get this lower valance all in plastic, which doesn't look the best, but that's the 4S. You get LED lights as standard, but moving over onto the Turbo, you get LED matrix headlights as standard. That's on the Turbo S as well. These are more technically sort of advanced headlights. And then down here on the lower valance, you'll notice these inlays are painted in the exterior color, which instantly looks much better. And then finally over onto the Turbo S, these inlets here are in exposed carbon fiber, and that is standard on the Turbo S. Quite rare of Porsche to give you exterior carbon as standard. So thank you Porsche for that. The only other thing worth mentioning on the exterior is you can upgrade to the Sport Design package. None of these have got it. It just gives you a more aggressive front bumper, more pronounced side skirts, and a more aggressive rear diffuser. That's about £3,500. Right, so onto the side profiles of the cars. One of the coolest features you probably would have seen on the Taycan is the gesture controlled charging port. It is an option though, and this car doesn't have it. So you've just got the manual one on this car, but I will show it to you in a sec. What it does have though is the auto deployable door handles, so when you unlock the car they pop out like so, which is a nice cool touch. On the 4S, sort of continuing the plastic theme from the front, the whole side skirt is in this plastic. You also get chrome window surrounds, which you can upgrade to gloss black. On to the wheels. So on the 4S you get 19s as standard. These are the 20-inch, these are called the Sport Aero wheels. I quite like them. I think they're sort of quite elegant, quite simple, still quite futuristic. They do hide the red brake calipers which come standard on the 4S. You also get steel brakes as standard on the 4S. You can upgrade to 21s, which I'll show you in a bit on the Turbo S. But yeah, that's the 4S. Onto the Turbo. You'll notice this has got the same wheels. You can get the 20-inch turbo wheels, which are a little bit more aggressive. You get white brake calipers. Again, you can't really see them with these wheels, but white brake calipers are standard on a turbo, and you get surface coated brakes, which produce 90%, I think, less brake dust, and give you sort of more of a mirror glass finish. So the party piece, the gesture controlled charging port, very, very cool. That is a £443 option. It does become standard on the Turbo S, but not on the Turbo or the 4S. You'll notice the side skirt, again, like the front, you get this exterior sort of insert, painted insert, which looks so much better than the plastic. And then this customer has also spec'd the gloss black exterior detailing. Finally, onto the Turbo S. So these are the 21-inch Mission E wheels. That is referring back to the Mission E concept car, which Porsche produced. And as you'll see, huge ceramic brakes, massive, massive calipers, which gives you yellow brake calipers. You can change these to black if you wish. You also have to pay extra to get them painted in the exterior color of the car. You probably would have seen a few white cars with the white painted surrounds, which is almost like the signature look, I think. And the only other thing, the side skirts, again, you get all this in carbon fiber. They are actually slightly more sculpted as well, the side skirts on the Turbo S. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Right, onto the rear styling of the car, and there's not really much that differentiates between the three variants here. You know, all three cars have got the very cool light bar with the Porsche logo integrated within. All three cars have got this electrically deployable rear spoiler that only comes up when the car is moving at certain speeds. You can't manually put that up. And all three cars have got this button here to open the boot, like so. Pretty decent sized boot in the Taycan, not the biggest, no SUV rival, but nonetheless pretty useful. You'll notice this car and the Turbo S have both been debadged. Normally you get the muzzle designation like here, like on the Turbo. And then the rear diffusers are slightly different. So on the 4S, again, you get all of it in plastic, but you'll also notice the slats are a little bit wider compared to the Turbo. If you look at the Turbos, they're a lot closer together and they've got a lot more depth to it. And then, like the side skirts in the front, you also get these inserts painted in the exterior color, so it does look quite a bit better, if I'm honest. And then again, like before, the Turbo S has the carbon inserts in the diffuser, which again are a standard feature. Okay, so before we go inside the cars, it's worth just talking about the different paint options on the three cars. As you can see, we haven't got the most diverse range of colors. Both of these cars are both in jet black metallic, and this car is in the Dolomite silver metallic. So the metallic paints are an upgrade for the 4S. They're £774, but they are standard on both the Turbo and the Turbo S. There are a few new colors worth mentioning. So you have now one called Cherry, another one called Frozen Berry, one called Frozen Blue, and another one called Coffee Beige. So whoever's coming up with these names must have been hot, cold, or thirsty. But then for all three cars, you can upgrade to a special color. And there's four of these, at least on the configurator. Two of them are ones we know well, Crayon and Carmine Red. The other two are both new, Neptune Blue and also Ice Grey, which seems to have replaced GT Silver, interestingly enough. And one more option before we go inside I want to mention is the fixed glass panoramic roof. This is an option on all three variants. We've actually got it on our 4S and our Turbo, but it's not on the Turbo S. I personally think it's a pretty good option because it's a massive glass panel. It does bring quite a lot of light into the cabin, so if you've got a dark interior or regularly going to have people in the back, I would recommend going with it. On the flip side, it is heavy, it does add weight, so if you're looking for extra performance, extra range, then it might be best left without it, like our Turbo S. Okay, so onto the interiors of the Porsche Taycan, and these are just so beautifully put together. It's full of screens and tech and just really fine materials. In terms of differences between the three cars, so as standard, the 4S actually only comes with partial leather. This car though has been upgraded. I think it's cost just under £2,500 to get the full smooth finish leather. This client has spec'd it in slate grey. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of slate grey leather. I'd probably get it in black. They also do a new colour called Blackberry, which is interesting. In terms of the actual seats, so as standard, the 4S comes with 8-way comfort seats, but you can obviously upgrade, pay a bit more, and I'll show you those seats in the other two cars. One more important option to mention on the seats is in the rear, because as standard you just get 2 seats in the rear, but you can turn your Taycan into a 5-seater by speccing the 4+1 option. That means you get a very small seat through the center. Obviously if you're going to have 3 kids or 3 people in the back, you'll want to spec that. Okay, so onto the turbo interior. You'll notice this car's actually got a 2-tone interior. So you do get the full leather smooth finish interior as standard on the turbo. Then you only have to pay another £300 or £400 to get it in 2-tone. So this one is chalk beige, which is a new color, and then it goes with the black dashboard, black steering wheel, and black on top of the doors. You can spec, I think, the Bordeaux red leather, and they also do this new one which is Blackberry with slate grey, which is pretty horrific if I'm honest, but each to their own. In terms of the seats, so as standard you get the 14-way fully electric seats on the turbo, but this customer has actually spec'd the 18-way adaptive seats as an upgrade. You do also get the memory function with the fully electric seats, so that's pretty useful if you're planning on having more than one driver for the car. But all in all, yeah, the turbo is a lovely interior. So just to show you the difference in the rear when you don't spec the 4+1 seating arrangement, in the middle you get basically what's just a storage tray. So for me, for what's only a £300 or £400 option, you're probably better off getting the seat in the middle. Although it is very small, you never know, you might have a little one in the back. Okay, so onto the Turbo S interior, and as standard you get this new interior which Porsche actually call a leather-free interior. What it actually is you get this sport tex material, and then you get this suede material on the outside of the seats. Porsche no longer call this Alcantara, they call it an innovative new textile material, which is interesting. But what it will do is it's got a lot more grip, so it'll keep you in the seat. Obviously for the more performance focused version of Turbo S, that is pretty useful. You do get the 18-way adaptive seats as standard on the Turbo S. You get an Alcantara steering wheel. You should actually normally get a matte carbon interior trim, but this car was a launch car and Porsche have gone with this new material called this aluminium rhombus interior package. Not for everyone maybe, but the carbon should come as standard. Okay, so onto the performance, the drive, the range of these cars, all the stats you want to know. That there's far too much to remember, so I've had to put them on my phone. I'll quickly run through them. Just a little opportunity to show you these Roman International carbon fiber phone covers. One of the many items we've just launched on the Roman store. Please click the link up there to check it all out. But yeah, some of these stats just to run through. So the differences between the 4S and the Turbo S are significant in terms of power and torque. So the Turbo S does 0 to 62 in 2.8 seconds. This is crazy, crazy stats. The 4S does it in 4 seconds, so it's still very quick, when the Turbo does it in 3.2 seconds. This is all with launch control. Launch control also gives the Turbo S 750 brake horsepower compared to the 4S, which is 522. So look, that's one of the biggest factors why you buy the Turbo S, is because it's ridiculous power, ridiculous speed. The top speeds are actually all pretty similar, all about around 150 to 160, but it's the acceleration which is the real sort of factor when it comes to the Taycan. It's a thing which makes your heart race. On to battery capacity. So the Turbo and the Turbo S have something called the Performance Battery Plus. This on the 4S is a £4,613 option. Having sold a couple of 4Ss, we know this is an option that a lot of people want. So it is important. So it turns the 79 kilowatt battery into a 93 kilowatt battery. This improves your range. It also has a capacity to speed up the charging. So you get around 250 miles as standard on one charge, but with the Performance Battery Plus this takes up to 280. Might not seem massive difference, but it's all the other benefits because you get something called a DC charge, and there's loads of other stuff I could go into. Different cables, you can get home energy things to optimize your energy around the house. I'm not going to go into that today, but all you need to know is these things are crazy quick. As you can imagine, on Porsche's first all-electric car, there is tons more tech. There's loads of features and options, which I'm not going to make an hour-long video going through them all. But just to touch on a few things which do differentiate the three models from base. So on the Turbo S, you do get a bunch of things standard, which are not on the Turbo and the 4S. They are Sport Chrono, which gives you the Sport Plus mode, gives you the drive mode selector, the analog clock, of course. That is optional on the Turbo and the 4S. Rear axle steering, always a nice option for drivers. That is standard on the Turbo S, but not on the others. Porsche Torque Vectoring Plus. This again is making the driving experience slightly better, the steering a little bit more precise. That is standard on the Turbo and the Turbo S, but I think is a £1,000 option on the 4S. Then you've got things like Bose surround sound system, again standard on the Turbo and the Turbo S, not on the 4S. So what do you get on the 4S? You do get PCM, you do get heated seats, you do get Apple CarPlay, you get loads of cool tech on here where you have like the aircon, you can select exactly where the aircon fires out. I mean, there's all sorts, but you do, for all three models, you do have to pay extra for things like reverse camera, head-up display, adaptive cruise, and they've got this really new cool option called passenger display. Now we've seen this on the Ferraris. Ferrari I think charged £2,000 or £3,000. It's only very small. On the Taycan you get a much bigger screen, and it's a fraction of the price. It's only £750, so that is a good one to look out for. Okay, so hopefully that video gives you lots of insights into the differences between the three cars. Look, which one should you buy? I really think it's going to come down to your budget. They all do a fairly similar job, but look, if you want just a Taycan, you want the entry-level one, obviously the 4S is the one to get. They come in starting off at £83,000. And then you're going to want to put some options on it. It is a little basic to begin with. You want to put a few things on it, but if you're going to start putting lots and lots of options on it, you might be more sensible to buy the Turbo. So the Turbo starts at £115,000. Obviously you get a bit more power, a bit more acceleration, and you get a lot more stuff as standard. But look, if you really want the ultimate, you want the best, the fastest, the best one out there is going to be the Turbo S. They start at just under £140,000. You can still spec loads more stuff on it. You can get it listing up to 160, 170 if you really wanted to, but that is the one to have. But look, that's it. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video and found it useful. Please remember, we are actively buying and selling these cars. If you do have a Taycan you're looking to sell, please get in touch. We would be very good buyers of them. But we hope to get a lot more of these in over the next few years. But until then, we'll see you at the next video.